This is Module 10. We're talking about coaching, goal setting, and action planning. So, in the previous modules where we were supporting individuals, we went through identifying values with individuals through the life review process and having questions with individuals. And then we went through things that we can do every day to stay and feel well. So, things like acceptance and mindfulness for individuals. But how do you get from point A, where people are now, to point B, where they want to be? So here's where this coaching, goal setting, and action planning comes in to help individuals, to hold individuals accountable, and you yourself during that process as well, if you want to set goals for yourself. So, we're going to talk about some coaching techniques, goal setting, structured action planning, how you can support older adults to achieve these meaningful personal goals with individuals. So, coaching and making a plan of action. So, if you are a peer supporter, you're probably very familiar with goal setting for individuals. And so, here is another method of goal setting for folks. So, step one, think of an important event in your life that you've had a hard time accepting. It can be something that is currently happening to you, or if there's regret from the past that you often catch yourself ruminating over, that means thinking about it a lot. You can choose that as well. So here is where we're kind of identifying the thing that you want to address with the individual and have people take time. This could even take a whole session for folks. Meet people where they are, right? So, step two is, well, what caused that event? So, try to think about all the facts that led up to the event that you may have a hard time accepting. And so, these types of things could be from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it may be. And as you're thinking about, well, what caused the event, try not to judge yourself. Don't have that negative self talk in your head or blame the situation, okay? That write down the events, okay? Just state the facts and go back to the facts because we know if we say negative things in our head about ourselves, that becomes part of who we are. And we don't want that, okay? So really challenge yourself on that and don't judge something as good and bad. These are just facts. And this is not to undermine the pain that a person has been through or currently experience, but simply a way to help people find a way to move from one situation in life to a situation where they feel more aligned with their values. Okay. So, step three, can you observe as you're doing this if any emotions arise? Okay. When you're thinking about the event. Okay. Thinking about the event, oh, I'm getting this pain in my back. Even stuff like that as well. Because we know sometimes our emotions could actually come out physically too. Or perhaps you feel frustration, anger, sadness, or shame. Be really open with who and who you are. It's going to help you dive into these feelings. So be open and try to observe whether you feel a certain sensation in your body as a manifestation of that emotion. Maybe you'll have an obvious sensation like sweaty palms or even an increased heart rate. Or you may have a mild emotional reaction. So, whatever you feel, accept the emotion fully and remind yourself that you can't change what has happened in the past. You can't. You can't go back. These are facts, they're set in stone. It's going to help people fully accept the emotion and or the physical sensation that helps them feel. Now, the last step in this process is making a plan about the situation or this effects from whatever it may be. If it's something that doesn't affect you in a significant way, then it might not be enough for you to make a practical plan, right? Or do practice radical acceptance. On the other hand, if it's something that does affect you in a way that is really not optimal for you, or you're having this large emotional reaction, this is how you can improve the situation. Here, you can even use a mindfulness exercise with folks. So, here, the keys to having the discussion with this person is being non judgmental, asking open ended questions. So these wouldn't be yes or no questions. These would be questions: how are you feeling? Not are you feeling sad? How are you feeling gives people an opportunity to share how they're feeling, not simply answering yes or no. Now practice active listening with individuals and repeat back for understanding. Here, by repeating back for understanding, it also shows that you're there and you're listening with individuals. So then you can summarize and then clarify meanings because everyone has their own filter. And see if it's something that people want to add to their toolkit as something to help them. So here's an example of this. The event that I have, I'm having a hard time accepting is how alone I feel right now, and how that has made me feel anxious and suspicious when it comes to social interactions with new people. Okay, that's the event that somebody wants to address, and this has come up before. Okay, so, what are the causes? Well, I'm living in isolation. I no longer see my friends, families because of the pandemic. I lost my job, so I don't even see coworkers anymore. I haven't reached out to anyone, and people haven't reached out to me. Remember that cycle of loneliness? I guess they don't know how I'm feeling lonely because I haven't told anyone. Maybe they're busy and stressed like I am with the uncertainty. So here you can move into acceptance of those feelings. Well, I get lonely and sad. These are the facts when I think about these events. I'm trying to fully accept these feelings since I don't know what I'll be doing and that I'll be able to move on. So, here, coming up with a plan with the individual that's aligned with their values. I really want to feel connected to people, so I would like to address this issue and make a change in my life. Next time, I will reach out to people when I talk to them when I'm feeling lonely. I'll try to accept that feeling and continue the communication. I'll try to be realistic. And when I feel lonely, I will try to be mindful. That's the plan of action moving forward. Sometimes this stuff is hard to remember, right? So, again, printing things out and putting it in your environment so you can see it, a step by step plan that somebody will engage with. And then, after 1 week of not seeing the peer supporter that they're working with, you can check in on these things and see if the person engaged with it. And maybe if you need to create a new plan for folks. So, here's another way how you can practice acceptance with individuals. So, step one is really acknowledging the statements of individuals. Sounds like you haven't felt well for a long time. Let's try an experience. Okay. So someone's having a challenge in the moment when you meet them. You're going to walk them through a mindfulness activity because we know if people are feeling in the moment lonely or sad or whatever it may be, you can do mindfulness and people may actually feel better, or acceptance rather. So here, relax, begin by focusing on your breath. Just notice thoughts you might have, such as the situation isn't fair and you can't stand for what happened. Let those thoughts pass. Give yourself an accepting statement. It is what it is. Practice it over and over again. Acceptance really requires many repetitions. So, a few things people can say: I can't change what happened, but I can learn from it. I only have control over myself, thus, I will accept things and let things flow. This is the reality, and it is what it is. I am in the present, and I will be happy with it. I'm in this situation. I don't approve of it. I don't think it's okay, but it is what it is, and I can't change what happened. So, those are some statements people can practice. There's also an opportunity for a guided mindfulness activity, which will be in the manual for individuals that you can work with individuals. And again, don't forget these follow up questions. Just going through the mindfulness activity, we really just want to reinforce that people feel different at the beginning and at the end for folks. So, one thing you can do is practice acceptance. Now, I all know we experience this. And the more we practice acceptance, the better we're going to get at it. So let's say you're waiting in line for a very long time at the grocery store, right? I think we've all been there, right? So here's an opportunity to practice acceptance with folks. It is what it is. These are the facts. I can't change what's going to happen at that. Okay, so you can practice acceptance there. Maybe traffic makes you late. Saying to yourself, it is what it is. I can't change these facts. Practice these things. You're working with someone, a service user, and there's a no-show, and you moved around your whole schedule for that. It is what it is. I radically accept this. Grubhub takes over an hour to deliver your food, and you're really hungry, right? It's raining on your day off, and you want to go to the beach. Lots of different ways we can practice acceptance for folks. Now, the next and final part of this work is really addressing thoughts. Okay. So we're going to work to change your relationships with your thoughts and decrease their believability or attachment to And the thought actually will change because they're just thoughts. It doesn't mean that they're actually true. Remember how we talked about before? People may have certain filters that they go through life, and we were talking about loneliness, and people were saying that, well, maybe I'm no good. That's why people don't want to be around me. No, no, no. That's just a thought. Okay. So these thoughts and feelings, they're a stream of words, passing sensations. They may not be true. They're just a thought. So the thought, for example, on the bottom is, I am no good. What is actually being experienced? It's just the thought of I am no good. Okay. So it's really separating you from these thoughts that you're having in your head now. And if you're working with people and people even say these things out loud, I am no good, you can challenge that with an individual. No, no, that's just a thought. Let me tell you how good you are. Okay. And you yourself, maybe you're going through this world and you have these inner thoughts that I'm not good enough or whatever it may be. Challenge those. Do not accept them, because these thoughts can actually impact how you live and breathe in the world that we're in. So here's an exercise. So on the left hand side, there's thoughts, and on the right hand side, what is actually being experienced? The thought, I am no good. Well, what's actually being experienced is just the thought that I'm no good. It doesn't mean that it's true. And what about the thought, I have no friends? Well, what's actually being experienced? It's just a thought that I have no friends. Okay. So as you go through the world in the next day or so, be very aware of your thoughts. And every time you may have a negative thought or you hear someone have a negative thought, you challenge that either in your head, if you want to, or verbally with yourself or the individual. No, no, no. That's just a thought. It doesn't mean that it's true. So you can really write down, well, what are the utility of these thoughts? So what are the purpose of these thoughts? How does the thought I am no good help me as a human? How does the thought I have no friends help me as a human? It doesn't, okay? It brings us back to this negative cycle, okay? So go through the world and challenge this and challenge your friends if they're saying it as well. So you can sometimes it's hard to recognize these because these negative thoughts because it may just be so integrated into the world that we live and breathe and maybe we're even hearing it from other people, okay? So you have a 24-hour period right now and you need to recognize negative thoughts, okay? So it could be you yourself, could be maybe you're seeing it on TV, maybe you're talking to friends and loved ones, okay? So to recognize it, it's a thought that is blaming you or blaming the person, okay? It's always looking for bad news, okay? It's unhappy guessing about the future or it's exaggerated negativity. The world is going to end, okay? Now, the first step is to recognize these. Then we're going to challenge them. So with the case studies, these will be in the manual for individuals and then active things you can do in distress to help people. So when you're working with folks, some individuals may not be as willing to open up, and that's okay. These interactions take a long time. A few things you can do to help people open up is say things like, "Tell me more about." Here it's kind of like an open-ended question for folks, and it gives people an opportunity to share with individuals. And even if you share yourself, you're actually going to get people to share more about themselves as well, because you build that trust and reciprocity in that relationship. Another thing too is saying things like, "That sounds really difficult." Responding after people say stuff that makes people know that you are there and you are listening. Okay. Other things you can do. It sounds like you are feeling sad, angry, lonely, whatever it may be. This is a way to really report back to someone what you're hearing, because maybe you're saying, it sounds like you're really sad. Like, no, 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 no. Actually, I'm really angry. So then that helps clarify the situation. And then people could also share information as well. So silence works really well. I'm not the best at that when working with individuals, but if you are okay with that and the uncomfortability and the awkwardness of silence, just let it happen. Um, and it helps support people and know that it's a safe place, that people that you're there and listening and you're willing to wait. Then, of course, there's nonverbal communication. So things like nodding, looking into the camera, and then leaning in for folks as well. So here's a case study as well, and it's example of challenging a person's thoughts about themselves. Okay, so the patient or service user, right? They say, "I'm really fat. Look at me." And she grabs a hold of two rolls of fat from her abdomen and squeezes them to emphasize a point. Peer mentor says, "One thing I can guarantee you in this room, we're never going to have a debate about what's true or false. What we're interested in here is what's helpful, what's useful, and what helps you live a better life." So when your mind starts telling you, "I'm fat," what happens when you get all caught up in these thoughts? So the service user or patient says, "I feel disgusted with myself." Peer mentor says, "Well, then what?" Service user patient says, "I get depressed and I feel alone." And then the peer mentor says, "And if I were watching a video of you, what would I see you doing when you're feeling depressed and feeling alone, disgusting with yourself?" Service user or patient says, "I'd probably be sitting in front of TV and eating ice cream." Okay. So you see that trajectory of what could happen just by having a thought and how that could impact a person's health and wellness and behaviors. So it's really important to challenge those things, just as this peer mentor did. So here we go. Peer mentor says, "So getting all caught up in the thought, 'I'm fat,' doesn't seem too helpful, does it?" And the service user is like, "No, but it's true." Okay. So again, they go back to that negative thought. But it is challenged a little bit because they do say no. Then the peer mentor says, "Well, let me say this again. With this approach, what we're interested in is not whether a thought is true or false, but whether it's helpful. When the thought pops into your head, does it help you get all caught up in it? Does it motivate you to exercise, eat well, spend time doing the things that make your life rich and rewarding?" Service user patient says no. Okay, so it's not helpful. Peer mentor says, "So, what about if we could do something here that could make a difference? What if you could learn a skill so the next time your mind starts telling you 'I'm fat,' you don't have to get all absorbed in it?" Well, I'm in. So, here we go through the skills with the individual to help them. And so, mindfulness is one of those skills. It's going to help people slow down. And then also, what we're doing over the next 24 hours is beginning to recognize those skills. Okay. So the peer mentor says, "We're going to learn some skills called mindfulness skills that will enable you to handle painful thoughts and feelings far more effectively in such a way that they have much less impact or influence over you." And notice this not only allows you to be connected with the world around you and engage in what you're doing, but it frees you up to do the things that you love, maybe going for walks and spending time with family. That's those values, remember? When you're no longer struggling with this stuff or absorbed in it, holding on to it, you're free. So you can put energy into things like improve your quality of life, like hugging people you love, or riding your bike, or playing guitar. How does that sound to you? Um, so that was just one example of how you can really begin to address those challenges with individuals. So let's do another case study. So here is a more biomedical model of a case study. And so it could be that you're interacting with a physician, a primary care provider. So let's see how we can address this with individuals. So, 72-year-old man, Jim, was diagnosed with recurrent depressive disorder since he was 20 years old. He has hypertension and diabetes since the last 5 years and has been maintaining well on medication. Presented to the emergency room with symptoms of 3-week duration characterized by extreme anxiety, restlessness, fidgety, sleep disturbances, worries that each family member, including him, will die from the COVID-19 infection. These symptoms increase further during lockdowns. Symptoms would worsen following the news channels, especially seeing images of hospitals, pictures of sick people, and reading the news. So he started to become preoccupied with those thoughts, okay? And distance himself from others. So those thoughts were impacting his behavior. And then would pressure family members to buy masks and started hoarding them or cluttering with them. He would consider himself vulnerable for infection and resultant death. Despite being reassured by family members that they're taking precautions and he is safe, he would not feel reassured. He would not allow any family member to go out of the house with fear that he would get infected. He'd bring the infection into the home and it'd be infecting the same, and everyone would ultimately die. Okay. Over the period of the next 2 weeks, he developed depression. as these thoughts are impacting his behavior in life. And so, which led to an emergency room visit. And his mental health examination revealed that he had excessive worry. Okay. And he would be blamed by society if he made others sick. And then he had ideas of worthlessness, catastrophizing, which is thinking about the worst possible case, okay? Worst possible scenario, and feelings of helplessness. Although he had sadness of mood, his routine investigations and physical exams did not reveal any abnormalities. His medication was increased, and it was a clozapam, 0.25 milligrams, and 3 times per day. Okay? So you meet with Jim. You begin talking about the news and his feelings of helplessness and loneliness, and Jim states, literally, people state, sometimes I feel lonely, but it's okay. This is really great because we know right now Jim is actively in distress. So, again, when people are actively in distress, we can integrate mindfulness with them. And it could be many different forms of mindfulness. It could be walking and listening to the leaves or whatever it may be. It could be listening to a mindfulness video and going through an exercise. And mindfulness could last an hour or it can last a minute. So even a minute could actually help individuals. Okay. So when we're working with individuals, we talked about things that can help you like in the moment, mindfulness, acceptance. We talked about things about helping people align their life with their values. And we talked about ways that we can help people with goal setting. Now, another way to help people with goal setting is using the STAR goal, which many may be familiar with this. This will just be a reminder for folks. And if you're not familiar with this approach, this is one that uses really well for individuals. So a STAR goal is really helping people identify a meaningful goal and then identifying the uncomfortable thoughts and feelings that help people not achieve that goal, and then writing down those small steps to help people towards that goal, right? Okay. So when you're working with an individual, you can say between now and the next time you meet, I will call one friend and I'll ask if they're available to meet for lunch next week. Okay. So this is the goal that the individual has identified because they have feelings of loneliness and they understand that they value friends and family. So write down this goal is meaningful to me because I value, and then fill it in for folks, okay? Maybe it's friends and family, maybe it's connection. Next is these are uncomfortable or painful thoughts and feelings I'm willing to make room for in order to reach my goal. Okay, so maybe you feel lonely, right? And even though you feel lonely, how are you going to move through that? So I'm willing to deal with these feelings of loneliness, and to reach this goal of social connection. So now, if these uncomfortable or painful thoughts or feelings show up, what are the skills that somebody could use to address them? Well, one of which could be that this is a thought, and what does it actually mean, right? Is it helpful to me? Is it helping me move forward in life? So you can challenge the thought, all right? Another thing someone can do is acceptance that, okay, I'm having this thought. It is what it is. Doesn't mean that it's true. Okay. Another thing you can do is mindfulness. So these are the 3 skills that you can use and find something that works well for the individual. So if you're really into mindfulness and you keep encouraging people to do mindfulness, but they don't, think about another way that maybe it's acceptance or maybe it's challenging those thoughts. Work with the individual to find out what works best for them. And then finally, I'm willing to take the first small step towards this goal on this day and at this time. And so just writing that down is just a way to hold individuals accountable. So I recommend maybe for you yourself creating a STAR goal and practicing this as well. Because even if you yourself go through this process, you'll be able to see the potential benefits of that and offer that lived experience expertise even more so to folks. Now, sometimes when you're working with folks, it may be hard to actually go through that STAR goal with individual. And so challenges that someone may want to change their behavior, but they can't get started, right? Maybe they're inconsistent in their action plan. Maybe they don't want to change behavior, right? Okay. So, yeah, these are the challenges we're going to see. And now we want to meet people where they are. So, one thing you can do is model your own commitment, maybe share your own experience going through this program and what your values are and how you maybe changed your life, or if you have someone that you've worked with, and share their story with their permission and don't use their name, of course. So, model that. The great thing about this lived experience expertise is that people will compare themselves to you in a positive way. If you've moved along the recovery, continuum, people will look up to you. So you can model that behavior. Another thing you can do is mutually set a goal and check in on one another. So maybe you have a goal to exercise more, and someone you're working with wants to eat healthier. Set a goal for with one another, and then check in on each other to make sure people are working towards their goal. And even if they're not, it's an opportunity to have a discussion about it and figure out how we can hold each other accountable to move towards that process. Um, you can also find ways to automate your behavior rather than relying on willpower at the moment. So maybe some things could be even writing in on the calendar, 12 p.m. I'm going to go for a walk and listen to the leaves for 1 minute. Okay, even that. You can even put it on your phone if you're using a phone for a reminder to do certain things. Or you could even remember how I was saying you can write these things down. It is what it is. I'm okay. You can put it in a mirror that you see all the time. Here's ways that you can actually impact yourself by just having an environment around you. So, our brain prefers instant rewards rather than long term payoffs. To start small with folks. This is a way to get people really engaged. And then finally, state your intentions to implement a particular behavior at a specific date and time. I will exercise for at least 30 minutes today in the location I'm in, okay? And then making that, writing it down actually is a way to hold yourself accountable. So, just want to thank everyone for going through the program. Looking forward to as everyone goes through the manual as well and practicing some of this work out there in the real world.